Yo, Sanjay Uchiha here, people. Welcome to another segment of Boruto Naruto Next Generation Reviews. Of course, today we'll be reviewing episode 29 of the series. So, as usual, before getting into it, be sure to rate, comment, subscribe, and let's dive in. Oh, and be sure to hit that bell to get notifications. You know the drill at this point. I mean, yeah. So honestly, my general thoughts on this episode, it wasn't bad. It was an okay plus episode. Like probably on the scale, I'd probably give it a strong 7 out of 10. Honestly speaking, I don't want to recap the episode too much. Like it kind of felt like this is one of those episodes where it just felt like it ended on a major cliffhanger when like shit is about to go down. Like by the time we finished the episode, I just felt myself saying like, wow, that's it. Like we're just getting into the most interesting parts of the episode, like, and it just ended. So there was that. But overall, this episode, which is titled "The New Seven Ninja Swordsmen of the Mist," we get some interesting developments. Of course, the plot does continue to move forward, and honestly, throughout the episode, it never felt like anything was moving too slow. We get some interesting tidbits with them finally fully introducing Suigetsu, and we get some interesting character interactions and statements. So, starting at the beginning, of course, we find out that one of the current, one of those so-called current ninja swordsmen, her father was one of the previous ones, apparently. The one with the electric sword. Sorry, I didn't quite catch the names of all the. Well, I don't remember all the names of these swordsmen and the swords themselves. So I do apologize for that. But yeah, so we find out that I thought that was interesting. Of course, we do move on to them actually stating where Shizuma, the Hoshigaki clan member here, and the guy that basically convinced Kagura. We find out that he actually has support from people who are linked to the feudal lord. And honestly, this is one of the things that is actually great about this arc. The politics involved, it's not anything too crazy, but it does add some semblance of, I guess, how large the stakes are in this arc. I suppose it kind of gives this it makes the whole world seem a bit larger, as when you compare it to part one, things tend to feel more isolated, or at least for the first two arcs in this series. So there was that. I definitely liked it. Shizuma as a character antagonist, he's not the craziest, not most in-depth, but he's definitely more interesting than what we got in the first arc with Sumire. Honestly speaking, he is like, and like the basic gist of what they're trying to accomplish, really and truly, it's kind of goes back to what I was saying. If you've been watching my earlier Boruto reviews, like when we were in the first arc, that potentially speaking, this series would have to deal with the shinobi finding their place in the current era. And that was, I'm glad to see that they brought that up as one central point, plot point in this arc. It's pretty cool to see, because no matter how you slice and dice it, shinobi are quote unquote tools for war, essentially. And with this new peaceful era, shinobi and their usefulness, the reason for their existence is slowly fading. So it's cool that we kind of get to address this here, and it kind of feels kind of similar to what Shin Uchiha was saying. So that was pretty cool. I thought it was refreshing, honestly speaking. And but the thing I didn't really like about this episode, Kagura, like, honestly, last week's episode was a bit melodramatic with him, and it's not that he's a bad character, but I just feel like, hey, he says he's following Shizuma. He's going along with his plan not because he owes Shizuma or he heard him or anything like that, but he feels that Shizuma is the only person that acknowledges him for who he truly is. But we had a few episodes ago that Boruto acknowledged him, so it's like, okay, bro, what are you doing? Ridiculous. But there was that. Anyway, I definitely like Mei, the fifth Mizukage's presence in this episode, and her role seemingly being a kind of like advisor to Chojuro, the sixth Mizukage. I know she didn't have the biggest presence in parts 1 and 2, Naruto Shippuden, but it definitely is refreshing to see her actually take part here, especially in an arc that seems to be surrounded by a lot of politics. So there's definitely that. Of course, it's interesting. Like, there's a line, like, I couldn't miss it. There's a line that Sarada points out when Chojuro essentially decides that anyone that goes against the mist and threatens the peace needs to be killed. And it's at this point that Sarada mentions that, hey, sacrificing somebody for the sake of the village, that's not the kind of Hokage she wants to be. And it's really funny because if she only knew like the true history of the Uchiha clan and like Itachi's sacrifice and how he was sacrificed for the sake of the village, like yeah, I just found that interesting, and I think they should kind of bring that up as a part of her character development in future arcs and her coming to the realization of the Uchiha clan and its history. It would be interesting. So I think that could be a good setup. It definitely added to the episode to me, even though it was like just this one little scene there. Of course, going towards the latter part of the episode, we get some interactions with Mitsuki and Suigetsu, and apparently Suigetsu doesn't like Shizuma. And apparently it's a problem if the Mitsuki gets involved and they find out if find out that Mitsuki is connected to Orochimaru. And honestly, I've always thought well, if you watch my last review, you would have heard me mention that, hey, the fact that Mitsuki is in this arc, it could be a tie-in to say Orochimaru may be involved as well. And since Suigetsu, this is basically his home turf in a sense, and they do mention it here in the episode, that it could lead to some interesting dynamics going down for this arc, which doesn't seem to be like it's gonna end anytime soon. So there was that. I mean, towards the end, we do get Chojuro, Boruto, and Sarada going up against the swordsmen. Like, I was gonna complain that power scaling wise, Chojuro should be able to take out these guys easy, but probably not. The swords are definitely one of the major factors why it's so difficult. It's gonna be difficult to take these guys out. And towards the end, we do get Sarada going up against that one girl with the lightning sword. So that's going to be interesting, seeing how Sarada goes up against it. And we have Boruto going up against Kagura, which is where they cut it at the end, just when it was getting good. Honestly, overall, it's not a bad episode. I kind of liked it. But also the more interesting things are going to be going down next week in next week's episode. But yeah, really and truly, and throughout the arts and animation was okay. It was okay. Yeah. One of the major things I'd say is that we need more action in this series, more expertly choreographed fight scenes essentially. Lastly, we did get some interesting stuff with Boruto pulling out like a few elemental style jutsus. That was interesting to see. I'd say we do need more scenes like that. But overall, not a bad episode. I'd definitely say give the Boruto anime a chance, at least this arc. It does stand out more than the first arc of the series. I don't know if I should say it's comparable to the Naruto Gaiden. I wouldn't go that far just yet. But let's see how it plays out. Sanju, Chia, rate, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.